Talking for the last couple of weeks about this idea of change. Now, one of the statements that it makes in the opener is that one thing we all need is change. Now, that's a statement that sometimes is difficult for us. There are times we're like, no, I don't need change. I would be totally fine if nothing changed. Except that that's not true. I mean, at our very basic way that we were created, there is this need for change, okay? There is a time of day where I need to be asleep, okay? That is a change from when I'm awake. Once I'm asleep, I don't need to be asleep for the next 28 hours. I think David got close one time, but but because that's not healthy for me, it's not good. I need to change. I need to wake up again. Hopefully, most of you change articles of clothing at least once or twice a week, right? Change is good. Very, very good. When I was in high school, we had this one kid who he tried to go the entire year without washing his PE uniform. Okay, now you have to understand, okay, we were freshmen, which automatically means that our IQs dropped by like 50 points, just for a year, right? That freshman year as a boy, your IQ severely drops. And for the ones that were hovering at like 62, that meant it was a problem, to drop down there. And so he had this idea that he wanted to go the entire year without washing his PE uniform. Now I had a coach, his name was Coach Barkley. At that time, you could get away with things that you could never get away with today. Okay, you just can't. But at that time, one of the things we had to do every day after PE was we had to get a shower. Okay, didn't have a choice of whether you were gonna get cleaned up or not. Everybody walked through the shower. You went to get the shower. You had to go and get your towel. Okay, and you couldn't get out of there unless you had your towel. You didn't get the towel unless you'd gotten wet in the shower, that kind of thing. You went and got changed. Well, one day, Coach Barkley grabbed several of us and says, we're not getting changed before we go to the showers. Like normally you had to go into the locker room, undress to go to the shower, come back out. He said, we're not doing that. He said, and he points to 4 or 5 of us, you're all grabbing him. We're going to the shower in his clothes and he's getting that uniform cleaned one way or another. So we did. We grabbed him. I mean, in this day and age, we would be arrested for like something, right? We went in there, somebody took like a bottle of shampoo and like sprayed all over his shirt and pants. We flipped him around like this, somebody starts rubbing and then we start hosing him off under the shower. I mean, it wasn't exactly a Maytag Express, but we got his uniform smelling better than what it had smelled like before we started that. It desperately needed a change, okay? Our noses needed relief. It needed a change. And so Coach had enough and we took care of it. It was great. It was wonderful. There is this idea for many of us that we want to hit this place. And once we hit that place, then we don't want things to change. If I could just get to where my finances are under control and I've got a comfortable house to live in and my car won't break down every other week and this happens and this happens, if I can just get there, then I want to be then done, right? Then I don't need anything else to change. We talked about this, we said it before, my kid's in diapers. If I just get them out of diapers, okay, then everything will be great and then nothing has to change, except then they continue to grow and there's other issues and problems and everything else that you deal with. I mean, it's from one thing to another, change constantly happens. And it's a reminder to us, because of the way that God created us, that change is good. Change is something that God has put in front of us. In His creation, we see the change. I mean, we're in the middle of one of the seasons that, I'll be real honest with you, is not my favorite, okay? There's part of me that just really wishes that winter did not have to come around. But if I didn't have it, I would begin to miss it because I'm used to it. And it'll go from winter and then we'll hit the spring and we'll see things begin to change. And then spring will turn into summer and summer will turn into fall. And then we'll go back to this nasty thing called winter again. But God has shown us that change is a part of what He has ordered for our lives. Now last week, we took a look at this story where we began to dig into what happened when this younger son, this man had two sons, the younger son, you find it in Luke 15, he takes off, he takes the money from dad that he would have gotten once dad died, he goes off, he spends it everywhere, we don't know exactly what he did with it, but we know he wasted it, he ends up with nothing, he's now feeding pigs, okay, scraps, given anything to eat some of the scraps because he's so hungry, and the farmer won't let him have the scraps because they're meant for the pigs. I mean, it is not a good place. Pardon me. So the son says, well, you know what? I need a change. It's easy in those moments, you realize that, to understand that we need change. It's easy when things are not going well to recognize that there is a change that needs to happen. And it typically happens because we are uncomfortable where we are. We desire change when we're uncomfortable with where we are. So he comes up with this rehearsed speech. Father, I've sinned against you and against God, and I'm no longer worthy to be called your son. Make me like one of your hired servants, because they've at least got food to eat and clothes to wear and that kind of stuff. Let me just do that. So he begins to come home, and he's rehearsing that speech over and over, and he gets close to home, and dad sees him, and dad hikes up his robes and runs out to go meet him, does this unbelievably undignified act for a Jewish father, and he throws his arms around him, and he kisses him, and he gives him a ring and sandals and a robe and says, look, let's have a feast because my son was dead, my son was gone, but now he's alive, he's here, he is with us. Great, awesome story. And for any of us who have been in places where we are uncomfortable, where we have been in places that we don't like where we're at, this story is so redeeming because it reminds us that God still loves us, that God still desires for us to be brought back in right relationship with Him. Here's the issue though. The story is not about a man and one of his sons. The story is about a man and both of his sons. And so we're going to pick up the story when we begin to talk about the older son. It starts in verse 25 of Luke chapter 15. It says, now his older son was in the field. As he came near the house, he heard music and dancing. So he summoned one of the servants and asked what these things meant. Well, your brother is here, he told him, and your father has slaughtered the fattened calf because he has him back safe and sound. Now, older brother is doing what the older brother is supposed to do. Older brother is working. Older brother is helping care for and manage the estate that his father owns. And so while the party is being kicked off back at the main house, he's out working. And as he heads back in, I find it very interesting. They didn't wait to assemble everybody before they started the party. The party kicked off right away. Come back to that in a minute. So he comes in and he sees there's something going on. And this is, this is not like the regularly scheduled bingo night or anything. There's something different going on. And so he calls one of the servants over and says, what's happening? The servant tells him, your brother's back. Your dad's throwing a feast. He slaughtered the fattened calf. This is like throwing ribeyes on the grill, okay? This is awesome stuff. And all of a sudden it says that the brother becomes angry. Now, there's a part of us that gets very judgmental about this brother really quickly. Because it's like, well, hey, shouldn't he be just as happy that his brother's back as the father is that his son is back? Well, if any of you have siblings, you know it doesn't always work that way, does it? Your parents can look past faults in your siblings that you, as someone who knows them better than your parents do, right? Come on, let's be honest. Okay, we look far more critically at our siblings than many times our parents do. And part of it's because there's this sibling rivalry, there are other things. It's just part of the dynamic of being in relationship as siblings. But this older brother gets ticked, okay? That's not what it says here, but that's the Chad translation, right? Okay, so older brother gets mad, and this is what he does. His father comes out and pleads with him, says, look, come on. I want you to be a part of this. I want you to come into the party. And this is how he responds to his father. Look, I have been slaving many years for you, and I have never disobeyed your orders. Yet you never gave me a young goat so I could celebrate with my friends. But when this son of yours came, who has devoured your assets with prostitutes, you slaughtered the fattened calf for him." This is what he does. He says, "Dad, I've done everything you've ever asked me to do. Dad, I've worked when you wanted me to work. I've stayed here. I've been faithful." And that idiot, okay, again, not what it says, but Chad translation here, right? That idiot went off and blew your money doing stupid things. I mean, he calls him out for having prostitutes. I mean, how does he know, right? Okay? I mean, he can assume, he can think, he can whatever, but he says, "Look, you never even let me have a goat to have a party with my friends. And now you've taken the special prized fattened calf and you've slaughtered it so that you can have a big party for your son. What's the deal? I've been here. I've been faithful." And he's so angry and he's so upset he won't even go in. We tend to look so critically at this brother, but I think we look at it for the wrong reason. I think it's right to be critical of him. Don't get me wrong. But I think it's for the, well, shouldn't he love his brother more? Right? Shouldn't he care more about his brother? See, that's not the primary relationship here. The primary relationship is not brother to brother. The primary relationship is father to son. And that's what this particular son has missed out on. I want you to look at this. He says, "Look, I have been slaving many years for you." What's that mean? Well, I've worked. I've never disobeyed your orders. I've been obedient. I've worked. I've been obedient. But always happens. You never gave me a young goat. In other words, the reason the son has done these things, the reason he's worked, the reason he's been obedient is because he wants something from the father. I've earned this because of what I've worked. I've earned this because I've been obedient. And what happens is he totally misses out on the relationship that his father desires for him. Because this is what happened. Father loses a son. I have no idea what that's like. Can I tell you? I mean, I know what it's like to be ticked at my kids. I have no idea what it's like to have lost a child. So anybody that's experienced that, I'm not trying to minimize this. I'm just saying I can't understand that in that kind of way. But here is a father that for all purposes has lost a son. It is as good as if the son had been dead because he was off someplace. They had no idea where, how, nothing. And this father is so torn up, this father is so grieved over it, that he's out front of the house every day just watching, hoping, waiting for that son that maybe he might come home. Now, if the older son had a right relationship with the father, his heart would be broken that the father's heart was broken. See, that's the primary relationship. It's father to son. And so here's this older son looking at his father, seeing how wrecked his father is. And if he was in right relationship with his father, he would be wrecked because his dad was wrecked. So here comes the son home. And this dad who's been so wrecked is now so overjoyed because my boy is back. And he throws his arms around him and he is so overjoyed and he is so excited. And what does the older brother do? Well, that's not fair, Dad. That's just not right, Dad. Because see, again, it comes back to the relationship. If he was in right relationship with his father and his father is overjoyed, then what should the older son be? Overjoyed that he got back what he lost. But instead, he is only focused on himself and what he wants. Now, How does this apply to change? How does this apply to us right here today in 2016? There are times in life when I want what I deserve. If I've worked hard for something, then I deserve it. I ought to get it. If I've saved up, I ought to be able to have this. If I've put in my time, I ought to be able to get whatever, okay? But the problem is that's making a false assumption. It's making a false assumption that I deserve anything to begin with. The Bible tells me that we have all sinned and fallen short of the glory of God, and because of that, I don't deserve anything that's good. But God, through His gracious love and kindness, chooses to give me good things. Because He's my incredible good Father. And He gives me things not because I deserve them. He gives me things because He loves me. See, I want things that I think I deserve, but then there are other things that when I truly deserve them, I don't want them. For instance, when I deserve the punishment. Hey, God, can I please have your grace? God, can I please have your mercy? Because I don't want that. I know I deserve it, but I don't want that. Here, this older son has all the love of the father, and the father cares about him deeply, but the son is caught up in the rules and regulations of the relationship. I'm my father's son, so I have to work. I'm my father's son, so I have to obey. And so everything is based off of that. But when what the father sees is, I love my sons. And my son was lost, and now he's found. And instead of that older son rejoicing, now here's the interesting thing to me. What if the older son, realizing just how wrecked his father was over losing his younger son, what if that older son would have gone looking for the younger son? What if he had been so moved? What if he had been so connected in his relationship with the Father that he says, Father, I will leave everything else behind and I will go find. I will do everything I can to compel. I will do everything I can to tell him and show him how much he is loved and how much you desire for him to be at home. Because you see, that is exactly the job that God has called us to do. For those of us who have a personal relationship with Jesus Christ, our job is not just to work and obey. Now, don't get me wrong, that's part of it. But that is not the basis of our relationship. The basis of our relationship is the love that the Father has shown for us. And the Bible tells us that when there are those who reject Him, when there are those who walk away from what He has desired for their life, that God is wrecked. God grieves over those that will not respond to His love and kindness. So in Matthew, we find that God then has given us this responsibility to go, therefore, and to make disciples, baptizing them in the name of the Father and the Son and the Holy Spirit, teaching them to observe all that I have commanded you. See, it's not about, well, God, I've been good for you and I've done this and I've done this and I've done this, so can I please get? But instead it's, God, I know because of my relationship with you that you are so gracious. I will do everything I can to reach out. I will do everything I can to connect. Had the opportunity yesterday to be at a training for our association, our group of churches that we're connected with. There was a man there during the training, and he's a trucker. Okay, that's what he does. He spends his entire life behind the wheel of a truck. He said sometimes 50, 60, maybe even 70 hours a week, he's in a truck. And he was talking about how it bothers him that he doesn't get the opportunity to interact with people and tell them about Jesus because he's stuck behind the wheel of a truck. And I thought, man, if we could just even have a tenth of that compassion, a tenth of that desire, because many of us are given the opportunity every single day to interact with younger brothers all over the place. People who have rejected what the Father wants for them and are only in it for what they think will make them happy. And instead, what we do is we say, you know what, I'm not willing to go to the party. I'm not willing to put myself out there. I'm just going to do my stuff. I'm going to keep my nose down. I'm going to do my work. I'm going to obey. But hey, I don't want to deal with that. It's my prayer that as our church moves into this next season of change, that as we take the next step in our journey of faith, it's my prayer that we would be so in tune with the Father that our motivation would not be a list of rules, that our motivation would not be what I have to do, but our motivation would be seeing people the way that our Father sees them. And because of that, loving them regardless of their circumstances, loving them regardless of their situation, loving them even if it means sacrifice, loving them even if it's inconvenient, because of the love that we have for our good Father. Father, I come to you this morning, and God, I just pray that you would challenge us this week. That God, you would show us opportunities every single day where there are people who have strayed away from you, that we have the opportunity to go and say, don't you understand that our Father is waiting at home and he wants to welcome you and he wants to restore you. God, I pray that we wouldn't be the ones sitting back just waiting for them to come back and then rejecting them because they don't look the way we look or have done the things that we've done. God, it's my prayer that we would be so in tune with you that it would be impossible for us to walk past those that need you without being compelled to action. God, thank you for being so good to us in spite of the fact that we don't deserve it. And I pray it all in Jesus' name. Amen. Thanks for being here today. A couple things to keep you aware of. There is no Journey group tonight. There is no Journey Live tonight. We got people gone and other activities and all that kind of stuff going on today. So those groups will not meet tonight. The other thing is the Wednesday group that is meeting is going to begin alternating locations week to week. 1 week they'll be meeting in Manteno, the next week they'll be meeting in Bourbonnais, and then bouncing back and forth. So if you're a part of that group or you would like to check out that group, please pay attention to the website. We'll try to get those dates on there so that you're aware each week of where that group will be meeting, okay? Thanks for being here today. I hope you have a great week. I hope that God will compel you to find those who are far from Him to be with the Father. Thanks.